Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Queerness Diaries. Today, I'm joined again by Joseph Federico. How are you today, Joe?
I am here, Connor. Thank you so much. How about yourself?
Yes, I'm very well. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today. We're going to be talking about our journeys from navigating shame to authenticity, everything from coming out to all the different eras we go through as queer people, as we grow up and we build up these different layers of ourselves that we have to mask and then unmask through navigating adult life. And just even introducing it, there's so many different moving parts. But I think one thing we can all relate to is as we get older and more comfortable in ourselves, it is very much peeling back the layers of the onion. And it's definitely a journey. I don't know about for you, Joe, but when I think my journey with being able to be authentic, being comfortable with myself, being able to show up as me in the workplace, in friendships for myself, it's been a long road. And also, it's something that it's a road that never ends because we're always learning new things about ourselves. But when I compare it to 10, 20 years ago, it's like worlds apart.
Sure. And I don't think it really should ever end because then we stop growing, we stop
Yeah,
evolving. And I think the whole purpose, at least as far as I'm concerned, in life or being a human being is to constantly grow
yeah,
and learn and evolve. And I never want to stop doing that myself, especially as a business owner, but somebody in their early 40s that just wants to continue to to become the best adult, the best human being that I can be and leave my mark on this universe, essentially.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, 100%. And I always think that a lot of adult life is kind of those parts of ourselves that were always there. It's kind of letting them be free again because at some point when you're a kid, everything goes from being so natural to you to starting to become things that you feel ashamed about or things that you start to shut down. And especially when we start to come into ourselves, navigating our sexuality, gender identity, whatever it is, it becomes engrossed in a lot of fear. And
yeah.
so being authentic comes with a lot of risk. And especially when you're managing the thought of coming out, how people are going to handle it, all these different things. But before that, it's funny to think a lot of parts that are ingrained in us from the very beginning are still there. And even in interests that I have today, they show up like the creative side from when I was a young kid on the piano making videos that shows up now in social media. Things that it's funny how they show up again. And so a lot of my adult life has been kind of exploring those things again that at some point got, I guess, hidden away by the fear and shame of navigating myself and my sexuality because especially for my teen years, it was something that that's all I could focus on. And everything I was trying to do was something to, it's like masking it. And with ADHD, people will relate to this. You get so used to putting on a different face for people not to feel possible rejection and shame from being yourself. And how was it kind of for you growing up? Is there any interest that you had from a young age that have kind of come through for you now and that you've rediscovered?
Yeah, that's a great question. As you're speaking now, too, I'm thinking of myself, in my bedroom as a child, as a teenager, listening to the music right here in the United States. It was really Z100 or the oldies station
Yeah.
or WKTU, and drawing in my notebook, creating
Mhm.
stories, reading my R.L. Stein, books, my horror books.
Yeah.
That's all part of my history, but that was, I didn't know it, unbeknownst to me at the time, part of my
Yeah.
future. And we're told as children to stop doing certain things, stop
Yeah.
drawing, stop lollygagging, stop daydreaming. And that's really the projections of society and our parents, what they were taught, projecting onto us. And I just had a conversation a few days
Yeah.
ago, this past weekend, with my partner. being creative has always been my strength.
Yeah.
And I may not have necessarily done well in school or in college, but I know a constant. I mean, I did eventually, you know what I mean? But we all have our
Yeah.
strengths and weaknesses, and I'm
Yeah.
here to just fully transparently admit that. However, creativity has always been my strong suit,
Yeah.
whether it
Yeah.
was drawing or working on my own comic books, my own stories, which led into journalism and public relations, and then now starting my own business and working for myself in my own business.
Yeah.
That's what brings in the bacon. That's what brings in the money. That's what attracts people to my social media and in working with me is my creativity. So that,
Yeah.
and I'm literally getting chills because you brought out this crazy thing in me just now, Connor,
Yeah. Yeah.
that the creativity has always been my superpower.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I had the most fun. I've always been a lone wolf, and I'm totally okay with that to this day. Hanging out in my room, not, I mean, I had friends and everything, right? Go to the movies or the arcades or creating my own radio stations, which I guess was a precursor to having my own podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
90s, putting on, I remember very specifically recording like an En Vogue song.
Yeah.
And I still
Oh,
love them, by the
nice.
way. They're still fabulous. But
Yeah. Yeah.
remember recording a show. It was like the Joe Federico show on my boombox. And it was this big
Oh,
giant
that's so
boombox
cool.
with
Yeah.
batteries. And you could plug it in, but batteries. So you could take it around the house or outside
Yeah.
the backyard. And I recorded this En Vogue song. And I remember doing this fake interview with En Vogue, really myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was
Oh, nice.
this
Yeah.
television, I mean, this radio host. So, man, I mean, not to overdo it with the creativity, but that's always been my superpower. And
Yeah.
it still is. I still have the most fun, even working through therapy. My
Yeah.
therapist asking me, where do you shine? What makes you the most excited? Really creating is top notch. So, wow, that was a
Yeah.
big memory that just came through.
Yeah, it's so true though. It's like those parts of us that we have right from a young age and we're passionate about, they will find a way to surface. It's like you can try and suppress them, or you can think they're gone. Like some people go into completely different careers. I wanted to be a weatherman at some point as a kid,
Wow.
and all these different phases, but it's funny, things show up, I think, in the end, because I always had that creative aspect. And I always kept a diary from a young age. So I used to just, whether it was just random journals about the day, or I had a typewriter at some point when I was a young kid, I always kept like sort of track of what I was doing. And as I've gotten older, that's become something very important to me with how social media has evolved as well, because I feel like I have everything not everything, but my general life trajectory like
Right.
documented through videos, social media, cameras, all these different things. But for a lot of time that came with fear, and I know a lot of people can relate to this. Being able to be authentic was not something that I felt very safe to do, especially as I
Wow.
navigated my sexuality in my teen years. Everything became associated with fear. So you say, about En Vogue, for example. For me, when I think of CDs, the music that I enjoyed for my teen years, I used to hide the CDs that I'd buy from the shop
Yes.
because I didn't want my dad to see them. For example, like I'd be
Fear.
buying Hilary Duff, come clean. I think that was
Yes.
one of my first
Fear.
songs with the pink single CD. Hide it away so it
Or
didn't get
Britney
found.
Spears. Britney Spears
Yeah,
for me too. My girlfriend, she probably knew that I was gay, but in high
yeah,
school, you didn't know really what you were or who you wanted to date or be attracted to. Yeah, she gave me the very first Britney Spears CD too. So I completely understand what you were going through. It's
yeah,
it's it's shame, or fear that you're going to be judged and you have to
yeah.
hide yourself or your true form. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like
Wow.
at some point we do transition into that sort of fear and that risk of shame. And so everything for me through my teenagers that was associated with being outed and being gay, I tried to minimize and shut down and present a very different version of me to people. It was a big fear in my school of being outed, of because I seen it happen. I've spoke about this before, but the bullying that went on to someone else that came out, and then again when I came out, that was not. I mean, we never stopped coming out, but the first time I came out was so badly received with my family that again
Yeah.
I did what a lot of us have done and kind of go back into the closet. Being authentic was not an option. Pack it
No.
away and just present this sort of mask of a person that did. I remember it used to weigh very heavy on me, but at the time, it felt like it was the only option to avoid a life that would not be very, well, yeah, not very comfortable because,
Sure.
school difficult, parents not accepting at the time. We've come a
Oh
long
my
way, like me
gosh.
and my mom, but at the
Yeah,
time, like
I know.
coming out, I mean, it was 2008. It was a very different time in many ways, and in some ways, not much has changed, how the world sort of evolved over these last few years.
The
But when
world's
I think back,
still is
like,
not evolving, unfortunately.
yeah,
Yeah. Not to be so
coming
negative,
out.
but you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I'm sure everyone can remember where they were the moment when they came out, how it was received. And it's the biggest risk at that point that you've ever taken in your life because you're you want that embrace and you want it to be received well, so you don't have to carry on with this burden and guarding your authenticity. But we
Yeah.
never know, how it's going to be taken. And I wonder how was it for you sort of navigating those feelings when you first decided, I'm going to start coming out to people. I need to start being authentic for myself. Did you have a
I
lot
was
of feelings of fear as well?
constantly, I was never bullied, but I knew I was different, from a very early age. I was
Yeah.
attracted to both men and women. I didn't understand those feelings or what they were. I think that's very normal for a human child,
Yeah.
whatever country, you live in. But high school, I did get a threat once in my car. It was a very different time in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you left your car open and your front door open and you could do whatever
Yeah.
you wanted. And people were just so free, a completely different world. I remember coming out of band practice and somebody found out about what I was doing behind closed doors with my first boyfriend. And there were rumors flying around, and I got a handwritten threat, and
Mm.
it scared the hell out of me. And I didn't tell anyone. I
Yeah.
just threw it out. I ignored it, hoping for the best. Probably prayed on it at the time. I was, raised Catholic. I'm more
Yeah.
spiritual now than, into any form of religion necessarily, but I got a threat and I was hoping it just went away.
Yeah.
College, there was, I don't know, I'm not sure if I spoke about this on the show, but there
Mm.
was a witch hunt. It was a very small campus in
Mm.
Mansfield, Pennsylvania. And I don't regret any of it because I was trying to figure out who I was. Who
Yeah.
was I attracted to? Where did I belong? Which department would I prosper the most in? And which friends would surround me with love and kindness, that I also shared with them. So there were many gay guys out on campus that wanted to bring you down to their level, and it was quite literally a witch hunt, and that was very
Yeah.
scary. And locals and students alike, all hooked up and connected with each other. And if you told somebody, please don't tell, people that I'm out or that I'm not out or that I'm even hooking up with you or whatever, it didn't matter. They did what they wanted to anyway. And it was very scary. Um,
Yeah.
but then evolving that into the workplace, I was very tight-lipped. I worked in corporate for a long time. Even my startup culture, working with quite literally convicted felons. I clearly have a very colorful past as
Yeah.
far as
Yeah, for sure.
working, but
Yeah.
it's led to this moment now, and that like excites the hell out of me, So um,
Yeah.
really just not everybody can afford to do this. I understand that, and I'm not the do all end all in career advice, but I have been around the block. I've been dragged through the mud,
Yeah.
and I'm a self-made man, and that's as scary as it sounds, but I don't have to answer to anybody at this point in time. And I'm
Yeah.
attracting the customer or the clientele base that I know that will support me, knowing I can support them back threefold, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because of my authenticity, because of my queerness.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
really because the social media has been a very important tool for me in expressing who I am without much fear, to be perfectly honest. So
Yeah, 100%. I think for us to be able to find our authenticity in the workplace has been it's a journey that you go through many trials and tribulations, but I
sure,
imagine for you now it's got to be so rewarding and freeing. But obviously, along the way, we've all had those jobs, those employers that we've worked for where we've showing up as ourselves has not been, you know, something that we felt comfortable doing. And I know for everyone in
yeah,
the workplace, everyone navigates a level of how much they are of themselves. And, some people are the performers and the clowns, and you never know how much of that in a corporate environment is the real them and
sure.
how much they're sort of, putting on for other people. But I know with my own journey, like my first job, I was terrified of being outed. It was like a big fear every day. And I remember someone else who was out and comfortable with his sexuality. I'd been away on a holiday, and I swear Grindr in the past has just shown up as times of outing me when I've not wanted to be outed
Sure.
in a small town. And so I remember I got back from a vacation and I hadn't hid my profile picture. So it popped up. It was like, hey, we worked together. I never knew you were gay. And I was like, oh, now I've got to navigate this every day. And
Authenticity.
that sort
Yeah,
of fear was, and I don't know about you, but I used to be this is something I've had to overcome. And as I've become more authentic with myself, become more comfortable with, but being around other queer people was something very uncomfortable for me in my late teens and early 20s because I had so much fear around who I was, being outed, and I'd gone back in the closet, being outed in my town, that it was very difficult to see people that were so open and able to show up for themselves
it
while
was.
I
Mhm.
was just hiding all these different aspects. And also, when I was around queer people, it was difficult to be myself because I didn't know who I was. I was so used to performing and hiding the different parts of myself
Sure.
and masking different levels to different people. Some friends knew, some didn't. And so juggling all that, um, yeah, I would go out sometimes on the train to Manchester, London, go down Canal Street to the bars, and I'd feel a lot of envy and jealousy for these people. And
Me
it made
too.
it very difficult. But even the very prospect of dating and all that stuff was impossible back then because I had no idea who I was. I didn't start to unpack that until 25 when I left for Madrid. And so it just meant it's been a whole journey with navigating what's authentic to me, but
Sure.
definitely for that era, late teens, early 20s, it was just juggling all these these different parts of myself to different people.
I know exactly what you went through because I had a similar experience in growing up, coming out, friendships, even difficulties to this day with family members that never really understood or care to understood or understand my
Yeah.
queerness. And it still weighs very heavy on me while navigating my own relationships, my own friendships, my own authenticity, my
Yeah.
own amount of sharing on social media across all the platforms that are imaginable,
Yeah.
as well as in my business. So, on top of that, yes, in high school, in the, you know, mid to late 90s, there were these gentlemen that I now, definitely applaud, in retrospect, that were out and loud and proud. And I consider them to be freaks because they didn't care. They were free. They talked about liking men or, members of the same sex. They wore whatever they wanted to wear. And these were, these guys or these people worked at coffee shops. And I had gone to these different coffee shops and I had been friends with these people that were friends with these people. And I was really just in awe. Going back to the fear, I was afraid that I would be, associated with people that were, so gay that I was like, I'm not like that. Like, I don't want to be perceived or, put in that category with this other part of the community. In hindsight, I was really just jealous. I was in awe. I wanted to be them. I wanted to be with them and be my most authentic self. But I came from a very prominent town, where everything was hush hush. You couldn't really be even applying to work at the library or work at the pool. You had to have, as you were saying, had to mask and fit into different categories that were pretty much written for you or that you felt the most comfortable in, at least for myself. Even working at the town pool, I may have been attracted to all the lifeguards, the men, or the security guards or the people in the badge room. But I had to keep my mouth shut because I was a different part. I was working with children. I couldn't say much. I didn't want to lose my job. At least that's, before my career really took off and I knew who I wanted to be, as far as a businessman is concerned. But you're right. It was not an easy journey. And I know it's not the same for every, body listening out there, and not woe was me by any means. I am not going to regret anything that happened to me or my coming out process, but it was difficult. Working for yourself, knowing that I'm the queer marketing maven, I'm the queer business owner, having queer people recommend me, and even my allies, even my straight allies that are my clients, I love to hear that they love me because I love them back. It doesn't matter if I'm a queer business owner. I don't have to hide who I am. I can wear a damn t-shirt and a hat and like that's my persona that you find online and that you're going to find in real time, unless I'm at an event for a historical society or something and I'll wear something a little bit more professional, 1920s to 1950s esque. That's also my outward facing persona when I'm in public, or an event. But what it comes down to, Connor, is it really shouldn't matter. And us queer people, unfortunately, still to this day, have an added extra layer of fear and doubt in our lives when we're navigating all this, on top of hormones coming out and growing into adult human beings. So
yeah, definitely. And I think oh, it really is. And I think the thing is, authenticity for us, it always comes with a risk, but at some point that risk becomes worth taking because the alternative of suppressing yourself becomes so unbearable and
so
unlivable that it's just not something that you can do anymore, whether it's in the workplace, in your relationships, in friendships. We find a point where we're just boiling over and it's like, this is me, take it or leave it. And it's so
really
freeing when that happens.
And healing to a point too. I'm again very big on therapy and mental health, and I know this is a safe space to speak about these things, but I've healed to a point where I don't care about much, and that's being fully transparent, and caring about those who care about me, growing the business. And I'd rather spend time home, than going out partying or whatever, and that's powerful to me, at least, as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, the journey that I've been on, even over the last few years, but almost 10 years in Spain, and I think from when I moved to now, the time that's passed, my journey with finding who I am has changed so much. Like the first year, I was just like, I'm gonna live like I'm 18 and do everything I've never done and go to
Sure.
every pride and every gay club and every night
I
out,
know.
3, 4 nights a week, never miss anything, every date. And then I got into a relationship too young. I hadn't found myself at all. I just turned 26. I was in this relationship for nearly 2 years, and I could not be authentic in that. And my partner knew at the time. It was a big pain point for us because I was still in that relationship with no idea who I was. And so my way at the time of solving things was what I'd always done in life, kind of people pleasing to sort of take the heat off me and dealing with emotions that weren't dealt with. So when I came out of that relationship, it was just before COVID, and then COVID hit. And it's like suddenly I remember when the lockdowns arrived and I had to sit with myself. I was like, I have no idea who I am, and I have no identity outside of going to the gay clubs 3, 4 nights
Sure.
a week, partying until 6, 7, 7 a.m.,
Oh my
being
gosh.
hungover all Sunday, and then going into work on Monday, and back on Friday, I'll be out again all weekend. And my life was living for the weekend. And then when COVID happened, I had to sit and look at myself and realize, who actually am I? What do I enjoy? What do I miss? And that's when a lot of things came back with the creativity, social media. I
I
was
was gonna
already
say,
working in content in the education world and creating everything from lesson plans to full-on interactive games and stuff, but I
sure.
wanted to do things for myself and find a sort of outlet to not necessarily even at the time be on YouTube and online, but something that creative wise would give me some fulfillment and
Sure.
enjoyment and feel authentic to me, because I had a lot of that imposter syndrome at the time. I was like, I'm not sure if this world of education that I'm working in is really my passion and what I want to do. It's got elements of it in the
Yeah.
content space, but it's not fulfilling me. I don't know that I'm fully fulfilled in my friendships, relationships with myself. So it's very much been we have been 5 years already of sort of unpacking that. The
Yeah, like
first year or two was
this
very
week, 5 years
difficult.
ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, isn't it? Half a decade to go.
What? This talk about roaring 20s. This has
Yeah,
been
yeah,
quite a feat, and we're still dealing with, I think, the downfall of a global empire and hopefully the rebuilding of a new one that's better suited for a lot more people,
yeah, definitely.
including us creatives. I'm going to flip the script for a moment here, Connor. We didn't really discuss this, but I want to get your take on this. How have you felt navigating your creativity and social media in regards to other queer men? Have you found them to be supportive, or have you found them to be your competitors online and also in person?
So for me, I feel like I've been through a big journey over the last 4 or 5 years with that, because what I started doing in the lockdown as I was finding myself, I started blogging online, video blogs, putting out onto Instagram, and it wasn't necessarily well received by the people I was hanging around with at the time in Madrid. They were very much circumstantial friends of a version of me that's no longer relevant to now, but I guess in the moment romanticized them to being like good friends, but they were just
Sure.
people that I went out with. So I had quite a negative experience, had a very bad experience for a few years with an individual in Madrid as well that had me fearful of social media. Showing up online came with a lot of risk in the workplace,
Wow.
in my relationships everywhere from this individual. And so I had a lot of fear about starting the podcast, showing up online as myself. But at some point, when someone else is telling the story for you and you're not getting to tell the truth, you just get to that point. Again, like with our sexuality, that you just have to put it out there. And
Sure.
so, in showing up as myself with the Queerness Diaries and also on LinkedIn, it started to connect me with people from the community, and this having support behind me and comments and people share their stories. it was not something I was used to at first because I went through that period of kind of getting, I guess, yeah, trolled online from this
Yeah, yeah.
individual. And during COVID up until last year, it was very difficult. And so showing up as myself online, it was something that I had a lot of fear about. But as I started to connect more and more with people on LinkedIn and share what I was going through with mental health, things from ADHD, things that I've just been through on my own queer story, so many people could relate. So many people reached out. And through all, you'll know this, through the networking groups on LinkedIn, you start to connect with people that really will champion you and will show up, even if it's just a like on your post or a hey, or they comment on a video, or sometimes you make friends out of it. And so it's been a real, even over the last year, a real journey that I've been on with. It's changed my relationship a lot with showing up online. I feel so much, I mean, I put anything out there now, but
You're right. So
it,
do I.
being able to show up as a creative. And I wonder how it's kind of been for you with your business as well, and the community, how you've sort of used LinkedIn and social media, because you very much can show up, like you said, as yourself, but as a queer business owner, obviously it comes with that sort of fear and hesitation as well at first. So how's it sort of evolved for you from when you started to the present?
I showed up in launching my business on social media originally very similar in the sense to how I worked in corporate.
Yeah.
Very professional. I used my headshot that I had taken right before COVID had hit when I worked
Yeah.
in the insurance industry, running their podcast and social media and public relations and mailings. And I thought, this is the persona I want to portray. Wearing my monkey suit, wearing my suit and tie, fresh
Yeah.
haircut, cleanly shaven, and that's everybody. Because that was LinkedIn even 5-6 years ago, was still very buttoned up. There was not a lot of personality on the platform. The other platforms, yes. LinkedIn, still not so much, about 5-6 years ago. And that has evolved since, and I appreciate that. And that's where we found each
Yeah.
other, you and me, through one of those,
Yeah.
gay business groups. And I'm very grateful for that, because there's a lot more color, a lot more personality on that platform. But I was not myself. I said, I am the marketing maven. I'm going to, be your coach, and I'm going to be very tight-lipped, and we're going to be very serious.
Yeah.
And that didn't do a lot for my business. It didn't do a lot for my business. And as I spoke to different people, joined different groups, joined and evolved and learned about different platforms, some of which are not with us to this day on social media. Some came and some, some went. But doing a podcast, a queer business podcast, speaking with members on the community or within the community, such as yourself, speaking with other queer business owners, getting more queer clients and learning what their voices should be and where they wanted to be represented, changed my outlook. And I said, to hell with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to wear the hat. We're going to wear the t-shirt. We're going to become ambassadors to queer businesses. We're going to be as queer as we possibly can while still being professional. And that took 6 years for me or longer to evolve into the person that I am today.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot more people are attracted to the easygoing marketing maven than the monkey suit wearing marketing maven.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I just show up as myself in person, traveling on my videos within the podcast that I co-host or that I'm a guest on. I don't miss the corporate. That didn't serve me, and that wasn't very attractive in hindsight.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but I will say, I also, to the point I had just asked you a few moments ago, I didn't receive a lot of support from the gay friends within my real life.
Yeah.
I hit a lot of adversity, a lot of jealousy from the friends that I tried to bring along with me on the journey, bring them to events, allow them to earn extra paychecks, learn the business, learn social media, learn event management. And I was faced with jealousy and a lot of roadblocks. People that I wanted to bring to the top with me, unfortunately, weren't around or available to understand why or even be a part of that. But I found a lot more support on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Even now through TikTok, complete strangers are looking at my videos, and I have a lot to learn still. I literally have a TikTok handbook that my niece got me for Christmas purposely,
Oh, nice.
so I can learn more about the platform and maybe start to, grow and evolve, that, or even for my clients. I always have to learn and educate myself on the newest trends in order to really survive and thrive within my business and for my clients. But I found a lot more support online than I did in person. Not from my partner has always, been supportive, but I met queer friends and other queer business owners in real life just weren't my biggest fans. And that's unfortunate. So, but as I had said, I'm a lone wolf. I'll always be a lone wolf. And I'm accepting that more as I'm getting older too. So.
Yeah, and I think it's very noticeable what you've been able to do, like having that authenticity become winnable is so important for us as creatives. And you see it as well in like your work, like for example, with Nancy, how she's come out on social media and she's finding her personality with videos and stuff as well. So
Yes.
being able to have that authenticity for yourself, but also do it for other business owners, clients, and get them to be able to show up as themselves online and have it something that they can use to market is something for us that was once associated with that shame and fear, being, queer. But once we can find, and it is a process for all of us, comfortability, then being able to find ways to bring our personality out and bring that out into social media is very rewarding for us. Because when we've had, everyone can relate to this, like different personas for work and things in the past, it's always nice when you can show up online as yourself. And for
Just
me,
find your
even,
voice. Yeah.
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 And I think for me, even though technically it still comes with a risk being me online, and I'm sure I don't care if companies see my LinkedIn and are put off because I'm not going back into the version of myself I used to be before. So when someone
Absolutely not.
sees my profile, it's like there's a lot of mental health posts, some random posts, but it's
A
always
lot
very
of
much,
rainbows, a lot of artificial intelligence.
yeah.
You truly inspire me. Every post I see, I feel like we're not in competition by any means, but I look up to you. I'm like, how is he doing that? How can I have him work on my team? How can we work better together? Because you put out a lot of great content and it's from the heart, it's your persona, but you've evolved. And everything that you're saying, I know you've gone through, and you certainly are growing because of all that and your past. But you could never tell by looking at your content now on LinkedIn at all. You're front and
Thanks
center,
a
my
lot.
friend. Yeah.
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 No, thanks a lot. It really it means a lot. And I think you can probably relate the journey that we've been on. Like I need to show up in every aspect of my life as my most authentic self because I went through all those different eras and years along the way and navigating jobs that weren't right, friendships that weren't right,
No.
relationships that weren't right. And so that period through lockdown was it's been something that I've come out the other side and I've learned a lot about myself, but it was a real tough period of my life to get through that I could never go back to who I was before then and go back to masking anything in
No.
my life. So it's very freeing, even though it can be difficult as showing up as our authentic self sometimes. It's not, I think once you've opened that Pandora's box, there's no going back.
It's a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the way to navigate through that is creativity, is authenticity. And thank you for mentioning Nancy too and her evolution because of my coaching. Just this morning, I was speaking with a local library to host an event for one of her book signings this, this
Exciting.
spring. And the executive director of the library had said, "Oh, I seen Nancy on social media. I didn't realize that was you assisting her." And I had to pause and I said, "Thank you, but aren't her videos so great? Isn't she evolving?" And that made me really proud. So thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's wonderful, like to see her confidence growing, and I imagine for you as well, like you've been able to show up as yourself online and also giving that back now to people from the community, to clients, helping them. It's
absolutely.
very rewarding when we're able to be authentic and also be able to pull that authenticity out of other people to help them in the world of social media as well. Because I think what people are looking for when it comes to LinkedIn social media nowadays, there's so much content out there every day. What sticks out to people is that authenticity. It's not like 5, 6 years ago when, it was very corporate on LinkedIn. Now you can make your brand whatever you want it to be. So I know some people will make those posts, oh, it's supposed to be this and that. It's anything you want it to be on LinkedIn. And so for me, I show up with all the array of posts I do. And for you, you've really been able to show up as yourself and help so many people with that. And so
Thank
I
you.
always say for people when it comes to LinkedIn social media, not to listen to that one person in the comment section that says, well, this is supposed to be this. It can be whatever you want to use it for, whatever is authentic to you, whatever feels natural and feels right, then that's what you use it for.
And that stands out. I mean, even going down the street to one of my newer clients and growing his evolving business in different locations, just by working with him and his team one-on-one every week, I may not be getting paid hourly, but I'm getting paid by the project, right? Monthly. But it's beyond the payment for me.
Yeah.
And it's about assuring they're comfortable with me, but with themselves, speaking with conviction about their products and services and what they offer to the community,
Yeah.
and allowing them to have fun, to share my love for creativity, my superpower
Yeah, definitely.
with them, to see them laugh, to see them even mess up and laugh about it. And I tell them, I'm still recording. I'm going to be using this as B-roll, for instance, because you don't know what can be content down the line that could be evergreen on a
Yeah.
video or a post or an article, even on LinkedIn. And I leave feeling more fulfilled by being in person with my clients, or having a Zoom or FaceTime meeting with them, to assure that they know that they're loved and they're having fun. And
Yeah,
that's what I
definitely.
think really sets me apart from my competitors, but I know is allowing these businesses to grow as well. Nancy and Robert and Jonathan and Dina. I feel like I'm on Romper Room with the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
was,
sure.
by the way, I was my third birthday. I was on the Romper Room in America, by the way. My first
Oh, okay.
TV appearance. That's a whole different
Oh, nice.
conversation. But I feel like I'm Miss Molly with the mirror, naming everybody.
Yeah.
But even my clients in Florida, we have so much fun just recording content together, and it's really to grow their business. That's how they book their rooms, fill seats at their restaurant, bring
Yeah.
people down for different occasions, and um, it's really about community.
Yeah,
It really is about
100%.
community. Otherwise, you've lost your way and you might as well go out of business, because that's really the way of the world, especially in this climate. So
Yeah, definitely. I think we've definitely been on our journeys when it comes to navigating authenticity, being able to show up as ourselves. And like you said before, it will be a continuous journey. But before we finish today, what I wanted to do is, what would be for you one goal or thing that you have for this year that you are sort of manifesting for yourself in business and also in your personal life?
business, to streamline my calendar and my availability, so I can better serve not only the higher end clients in my life or better paying my salary, but to be more available and to be more
Yeah.
authentic. So that's definitely a business goal. A personal goal, to go back to my roots within my creativity, go back to the things I enjoyed as a child and remember why they drove me to where I am today, and
Yeah.
to pay homage to that. And that's again where I find my superpower and where I think I will continue to find my superpower.
So yes,
How about
exciting
you?
times then. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think for me this year, I mean, it all goes back to Madrid for me, both in business and personal life. It's kind of the same thing because my goal is to go back to a city that for me it feels like home. And I know it sounds strange to a lot of people because when I lived there before, I was navigating myself, but the city was always the right place. I just at the time didn't know it, and I was navigating so many different things. So I think going back this year in business with the right job and also my personal life with the right mindset sets me up to have a brand new chapter in a city that I always loved, but I was in a period of my life where there was just a lot of unpacking and a lot of things going on and a global pandemic. Like
Sure.
it'd be nice to be back there and sort of feel like I'm starting a new chapter, but also I'm starting that chapter feeling like I'm very much at peace with who I am and I'm ready for what's to come in life. So I think there's a lot of excitement around that. I'm sure life will happen and many unexpected curveballs, but it's definitely something that I'm manifesting for myself this year, whether it happens next week, next month, at the end of the year. I manifest that it happens this year.
And it will. Just keep on showing up as yourself. And that's your superpower, not only within your life, Connor, but knowing you for quite some time now and really looking up to you. That's your absolute superpower, and it will work out in your favor. So
Thanks
I
so
have
much.
confidence in you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really
Always.
appreciate it. And it's such a pleasure, as always, having you on the podcast. Like we said before, finding a way to make authenticity winnable is the best thing we can do for ourselves. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week to the
Thank you so
Queerness
much.
Diaries. I shall put Joe's details in the comments as well. So make sure you give him a follow on LinkedIn and reach out to him if you've got any questions as well. So thank you so much, Joe. We'll be back next week.